Hello, my dear students. I'm so happy to meet you through this mode of teaching. In the last week, we have studied about Flanders classroom interaction analysis category system. I think you are familiar with that. Uh, After that class, I told you to write upon reciprocal category system. I think you are busy with other subjects and fear of coronavirus, right? And I received all your video seminar class. Really, you performed well. That made me and it motivated me to make this video. I'm so happy to meet you all in this mode. Today we are going to learn about reciprocal category system. It is another system which is useful for analyzing our classroom interaction. Why we have to analyze classroom interaction? When we analyze the classroom interaction, we learn the qualities of teacher and the interaction between teacher and the students. When we learn about the interaction, we get many ideas about teachers' behavior, right? I think you are familiar with that because of FIACS you learned earlier. Today we will move on to reciprocal category scheme. So in this category scheme also 10 important categories are given. And now I am going to list out all these categories. After that we will discuss the explanation of each categories. So here, first category is called as warms up. Usually in our classroom situation, warming up or motivating the class is the first step, right? So here, the warming up is the first category. Number 2 is accepts, right? And the third is amplifies the contribution of another person. We will learn later, right, what is another person. Amplifies the contribution of another person is the third category. Next to the fourth one is elicits. Fifth one is response. Already we have studied in FIS about respond. The fifth category here is response. And sixth one is initiates. Sixth one category is initiates. Seventh one is directs. So you might have an idea that here all the words comes under verb pattern, right? Yes. The here eighth category is corrects. Ninth category, usually it will present at the end of the class, that is called cooling the session, cools the climate. And the final one is confusion or silent state. Okay, so we have learned about 10 important categories of reciprocal category system. So we will learn further about the code allotted for students and teachers. Okay, now listen to this board. I have written the 10 categories names. Okay. I think you are familiar with FIACS 10 categories and the codes for the 10 categories. Now we are going to give codes for these reciprocal category systems. Already I have spoken about these 10 categories. Now please listen here. Code for teachers. Here you have to give 10 codes. The codes will denote the actions of teachers. Here, these 10 categories are allotted for students. So the same categories is allotted for teachers and also for students. When the teacher exhibits that categories, you have to give the codes for teachers. When the student exhibits the categories, the same categories, you have to allot the codes for students. I think you are familiar with that, right? So you have to memorize all these 10 categories and you have to look at that. The first one is number 1. When the teacher is involved in warming up the class, you have to give 1. Okay? When the student is involved in that, code number is 11. And the same way it will goes on. When the teacher accepts the responses or any answers of the students, you have to give 2. Accepts the feeling, right? Everything. When the student accepts, it is 12. The same way, when you amplifies the explanation, that is when you are explaining, when you are describing the concepts, right? When the teacher is involved in this category, you have to give 33. And when it comes for students, sometimes students also share their views, right? Then it comes under 13. And elicit, this is also related to lecturing pattern. Elicit, give new ideas. So when the students is involved, it's 14. And the fifth one is response. Fifth one is response. When the teacher responds, you have to give 5. When the students respond, you have to give 15. And the same way, initiates teacher part is 6. I think you remember that we discussed in the FACS class about response and initiates. That's only given to students, but here it is allotted for teachers also, right? So 16 is for initiates of teacher guide directs 7, and 17 is for students, and 8 is corrects, and 18 is for students category. 9 is schools, and 19 is students part, and 10 is the confuser state. Sometimes teacher will be in silent mode and the student will also be in silent mode. When the students are in silent in responding and in the beginning of the class, right, you have to mark silence. So these are the 10 categories. These are the codes for assessing teacher activity and student activity. I think you are familiar with this one, right? Next we will see the another one is advantages and limitations of these reciprocal categories.